Yeah, fellow skeptics, you might be able to tell my voice isn't exactly 100%. I've been getting better, but just an update. People wonder what's been going on. Well, as you guys might have seen, I tried to give what I gave, which was spending a weekend in Alabama. And I give you a tour of my hotel room and the gym where I attended a 2-day workshop in the Red Zone Threat Management Program held by Jerry Wetzel. You gotta check him out if you're really serious about what you might term self-defense. In real quick, that term has been thrown around loosely for decades. I don't know the number of decades, but as long as I've been around and been involved in martial arts in serious about that endeavor. So, long story short, I was in Alabama from Friday, the 8th of March, up until flying to Oakland to visit my brother, his family, and my parents were tagging along. I was there up until the 11th of March, and it's a trip flying from my side of the United States to Alabama and then back to the West Coast. And it didn't help matters where I adjusted to the time change of the time zone, and then with the time change with daylight savings time, that didn't help me. And I'm not sure if I was in the best of health when I think about it, when I look back on it, doing something physically demanding in proportion to the age I'm at, which for those of you who know, cool. For those who don't, 42, going on to 43. So that didn't help matter. So that was a that was an ordeal. And I know I meant to put some more stuff up because my layover was in Vegas. I talked to the guy who, or I should say, I talked to Jerry about it, his itinerary because my layover was in Vegas. His was in Denver. Vegas was a trip because they always say what stays in Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So you can go and lay over to your next flight, and you have temptations abound with the slot machines. I just was enamored with. Everywhere you looked, you would go around like, oh, temptation, because it's very easy, especially for layovers like hours, and you're there by your gate. What are you gonna do for the next couple of hours? So, given what I already covered with certain energy levels, or my baseline wasn't at normal. I don't think it was. And dealing with the bouts of post workout and possibilities of food poisoning. I think it was a Sunday night, the last night I was in Alabama. And that sent me through a loop. So when I was in Oakland trying to be there with my brother, I was bedridden. I was trying to think of ways to mitigate what I was feeling, what I am feeling. I am. I like to think I'm on the mend. Things are better, and it may not seem like much. Things still suck. Like, I still suck wind for most of the routine things I've been able to do with relative ease, walking from one point to another. So that's been a struggle. And trying to think of where am I at health wise that I still need to address. So that's where I've been. When I'm away and I'm with family, that tends to come first. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of YouTube stuff because, I'm one of those that, if time is precious, even with the stuff where you might have some lingering dynamics within parental child relationship, even though we're not exactly equals, but we're not as top heavy or bottom heavy in the dynamic or the tension. We can see each other more as peers, but we still understand the boundaries. Hey, my mom gave birth to me. My dad raised me. Those are still there. But for the most part, it's more like we're at a point where we trade notes often about various topics, but you know, just working with that and spending time with my niece, watching her go through her Duolingo, helping her with her Chinese. That was a trip. So that's where I've been, and when I came back, it was still working through those dynamics of recovery. Like I said, I'm much better than I was. Again, things still suck. I just wanted to show a couple of things I got because while I was away, I was hoping to get these items, maybe one in particular, because one was a book that I would love to read on the airplane. Although, in retrospect, both of my flights, or however many flights it took me to go to Alabama, Oakland, and back, I don't think I had a smooth flight. That wouldn't have made reading, whether we're talking electronic or paper, it wouldn't have made the experience pleasant. Or I don't know about pleasant, maybe relaxing. I couldn't enjoy any bit of reading. I was trying to read something on my phone. It just it just made me want to. The way the plane was going, it just made me want to go to sleep. So, first object, I kind of anticipated this one. I would have gotten it by the time I came back. And luckily, it came through the post office because one of the number one concerns, I'm sure, for a lot of people when they're away and they have an expected delivery, that delivery might not be there when they get back. So, let's see if I can put this up. For those who remember the cartoon in the 80s and 90s, excuse me, princess, and let me see if I can bring it out from here. I'll figure when to rock this. So I got this also. And speaking of the book I wanted to read, let's see here. Who wrote the top? So I think I mentioned this. I may have mentioned this in some of my videos. If not, I apologize. But this is the probably the first time I'll approach this subject. You guys might have heard it already, but plagiarism wasn't the policed thing that it is now. Um, quick fact about it, and I think you might have heard of it. Back in '05, '06, My one of my professors had us use a site called turnitin.com. It would scan our essays, submitted essays, for possible plagiarism. Scary thought thinking about the way things have become now. But in Bruce's time, plagiarism wasn't the bugaboo. A lot of things Bruce said you kind of have to fact check. There might have been things. I mean, the easiest things you can say is stuff he says is in interviews, whether in magazine or TV visual format. Speaking of which, um, I'm stoked. For those who don't know, Stripey Rambles, he kind of tipped me on the Arrow films, and of course Tom from Midnight's Edge, Greg from Fanzine. They talk about Arrow films, or I think it's Arrow. They are sending my Way of the Dragon finally that I've been waiting for, and I've yet to watch the Game of Death documentary. The companion disc I got as part of my order. So I'm excited. I'm excited to sit down, hunker down, and really eat that up. So going back to this, uh, those who know about the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, a lot of good passages in there. This talks about the sources, and this was written by one James Bishop. Uh, for the uninitiated, James Bishop has been around the Bruce Lee scene, as I remember, mid to late 90s, particularly through the Bruce Lee magazine, when what was called the nucleus was still around. They evolved to become the Bruce Lee Foundation, and I don't know what's going on with that. Um, Not that I've turned my back on Bruce Lee or anything like that. I've kind of measured where Bruce Lee is in my life. I mean, heck, I have a I have artwork on my arm depicting Jeet Kune Do because of what it influenced me. Not that I turned my back on it entirely, but I understood what it meant in my life. That aside, this will discuss the inspiration and sources of where Bruce Lee gathered all his quotes. And in a lot of the online discussion of late is the inspiration from a lot of samurai movies and samurai texts. And so this will be interesting, and it doesn't decrease any of my respect, but at least it puts things in perspective about where these inspirations come from. And so James Bishop has been doing a lot of research over the decades about the inspiration of Bruce's thoughts. And that's one thing I respect him for. And the one thing I really appreciated what he did for me, I forgot where he put it. He might have put it in some. Oh yes, I I didn't know that he would remember me in some way. But he says, Lester, it's been a long time. I hope you are doing well. It has been a while because I do remember corresponding with him during the internet, early days of the mass internet age, like around late 90s, early 2000s. The fact he put that in is very nice of him. So I can't wait to read this. And I think for the subject of getting down to the nitty gritty of the history of any text, and I'll just speak a little bit in, excuse me, about biblical scholarship. It's not something to be scandalized by, but to uncover the history is something that just uncovers more of a mystery. So I'll say more about that. I haven't poured into that text yet, but the one book I think I mentioned in one of my unboxings, Eastern Christianity and its text. That's the book that I've been meaning to dig into, and kind of breaks down a lot of the popular piety in certain circles. There where there are no illusions. There's a point where you want to be free from illusion, but not to the point of jadedness about the core, if that makes sense. To the point of scandal. And I know there's a danger of that, but as long as you kind of have a right orientation of where you want to go and where you're headed, a lot of these discoveries shouldn't put you in a point of scandal. So uh, I'll say more about that, and I know I talk about my read-alongs. I might redo my Warrior Within read-along. I did an initial video. We'll see. I might redo it and go from there. All right, fellow skeptics. I hope my throat shelf life isn't affected well, by doing this video, but I thought I'd give you all an update. Like I said, I'm feeling better, but I still feel like crap in certain instances. So more coming, more coming. So until next time, fellow skeptics, peace out, and I'll catch you all on the other side.